left for me. You got the nerve to ask what I'll do. Call me crazy, but I'm occupied by the bad news. Why are you?
What's up, everybody? This is Mike from the Songwriter's Planner. Thanks for swinging by this podcast episode today. Creator and designer of the Songwriter's Planner. Wanted to thank everybody for joining my podcasts. I've had a great time doing them, and I'm really super excited today to have my first guest on. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Mike Mercier, and he is a solo acoustic artist from America, actually traveling around and playing full-time in Europe. He travels to a lot of different countries, playing pretty much any venue, bar, restaurant, you name it. He's out there doing it. And I was really excited to have him on as my first guest because I think he has a very great story to tell about what got him to move from America to Sweden and start playing music out there. He's been doing music full-time as a full-time musician for, many, many years now. And he has a lot of insight and a lot of experiences because of it. I thought he would be great to have on a guest. He's got a lot of value, a lot of stories to tell. Hopefully you guys find it interesting as well. So thanks again for swinging by to check out this podcast. We're going to jump into it right now. How's it going, Mike?
Going good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on to my podcast, man. I'm really psyched for you to be my first guest.
Yeah, I'm psyched too, man.
So it's about 10 o'clock in the morning here in Phoenix. And what is it, like 7 o'clock over there in Sweden?
7 p.m. Yes,
7 p.m.
Clocking. They call it clocking 19.
So, Mike and I have played in bands before. We've known each other for a while, and to just kind of give you a quick backstory, and then I'll let him tell you guys what the story is. But he moved to Sweden a couple years ago. He's a full-time musician out there playing venues, making a living for himself doing this full-time. So. Mike, can you go into just a little bit of backstory about where you're from and what kind of led you to where you are today?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so where I met you was in Phoenix, and I without going too deep, I started in New Hampshire. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire, and kind of started my music playing in a cover band and some other kind of bands, and then doing the acoustic thing, go around bars and pubs and whatever else, and ended up moving out to Phoenix in 2000, and spent 17 years there doing that. Pretty much the same thing. You and I had the cover band going. I had an original band before that, and the whole time I was doing the acoustic thing also. Yeah. And then I was hosting an open mic. I met this dude from Sweden, who was a great musician, Mats Lidborg.
Yeah, let me break in real quick. I wanted to kind of elaborate on the fact that you've been doing music full time for a long time now.
Sure. Yeah.
This is, because that's kind of something where I think is a lot of musicians who play music and don't do it full time always wonder about, like, what is it like to do music full time? And quit your job. Basically, every musician has a dream of just quitting their job and doing it full time. Before we get into Sweden, let's elaborate a little bit more on that, on like what made you decide to do that and what changes did you have to make in your life to be able to do that?
Well, I mean, it kind of just happened itself. Actually, I was actually back in New Hampshire. I was working at this guitar factory for Godin Guitars, and I was just making some ungodly low wage there. And thinking it was like, it was all I could do,
Yeah.
When you're in an environment like that, it's just, you just feel like that's all you're, pretty much capable of. Anyways, I had started playing the acoustic thing with a buddy of mine, and just on the weekends, and I ended up getting fired from that job. Like every other job I ever had. So, it was time. The time was right. So we just had to buckle down. We just started, looking for gigs, more than the weekends.
Yeah.
Ski resorts at the time. It was winter time, and whatever in the summertime beach stuff. We looked at like agents and whatever we could do just to get busy, get work, and
Did
and it
you
worked. Within a couple of months,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was paying my bills with ease.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it sounds like you guys didn't have too many problems finding work. I think that's the one thing that stops a lot of musicians from trying to go full time is they're like, where do I start? How do I even get that many gigs to supplement my income?
Yeah, I've had that conversation a lot of times over the last lot of years.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, it's just I guess it's different now. At the time, it was like put together a demo and I had to mail things and make phone calls and stuff, and the phone call still applies. The phone call thing still applies.
Yeah.
But it's get some good video yourself, some good audio. I think finding the venues is probably that's one of the harder things. Who does it? In a city like Phoenix, it was pretty easy because you have
a lot of work.
Like the new times and stuff, and you just look, find out where everybody else is playing, go out and talk to those guys and find out who's booking, and schmooze your way in, sales.
Yeah.
And then when you get in, do a good job, and hopefully they have you back and repeat.
Yeah, I think like I was mentioning earlier, I mean, a lot of people, I think a lot of musicians that dream about doing it full time, just like, what is that thing that gets them over the hump? And it sounds like it could be a situation where you're like, just financially you're ready to do it, or it just happens.
It's always
for
the money
you.
thing, man. It's
Yeah.
people always kind of wait for till they have some money saved so they can quit their job. It just kind of, I don't know if that ever happens. You just kind of have to do it, and maybe I think probably a better way, if you are worried about not having it work, is work the late nights and then go back and work the early mornings at your day job until you got it straight.
Yeah.
But there's no one way to do it. I did it out of kind of desperation. It was good desperation. It was something I wanted to do, but maybe something I wouldn't have been so focused on making happen if I didn't lose my other job.
Yeah.
And, there weren't a whole lot of other avenues. So, and then, same thing when I moved to Phoenix, I didn't know anybody, and I just, the other thing is buying a PA system. People are slow to buy a PA system. It's just like, do it. Instead of buying anything else, a TV or furniture for your new apartment or whatever, go out and buy a PA system so that you can do it. Because that's, that holds a lot of people back. You got to have the equipment. You got to sound good. That's part of it. So
yeah. And having your own gear is super key, because then you're not relying on borrowing a system or wondering if the club has a PA system for you to use, and just kind of get in there easier, huh?
Yeah, and depending on where you are, most places don't have their own stuff.
Okay.
For this kind of stuff anyway. I mean, obviously when you go into larger venues where you're a draw and you're playing, if you're opening for a band or, playing like a proper music venue, of course they're going to have their stuff. But if you're just getting started out, you got to have your own gear for sure. And it's got to be reliable and professional worthy.
Yeah,
to sound good.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip for other folks to know if they're planning on making that leap into full time. Okay, so you were going into, so let's talk about how you decided to, you were in Phoenix here for many years, and you finally kind of got hooked up with someone who helped you actually go to Sweden your first time. I remember when you did that. I was super proud of you, by the way, when you did that.
Yeah, it was a big deal, man. I remember it too. I was so excited about it. This guy who I'm still really close to, Matt Sledeborg, he came into my open mic that I was running, and he was just on vacation with his wife, who was from Phoenix, and they came in, just wanted to play some songs, wanted to play some open mics, and we hit it off, became friends, and I got him a couple gigs there, and he's like, "Oh, you should come to Sweden sometime." And instantly, I was just like, "Absolutely, let's make that happen right away." And I think I remember it was Valentine's Day, because I hung out with them two on their Valentine's Day date. So it was in February, and by I think July is when I first came out to Sweden, and I made kind of a tour of it. So I had all that time to plan, to get a hold of other places, to work out to find out other gigs around Europe. And some of them, it was risky, you know. I wasn't getting paid at all of them.
To start off, you weren't getting paid very much.
To come over and like tour all these places, you just don't know. I mean,
yeah.
You know, some places we worked out like guarantees and stuff, but even then, like in that time, I had played one gig for an entire month. All of August, I was at this one place in Copenhagen, and I was excited about it, but it just seemed to me that there was a good chance that they could just not pay me because of the way it was set up. You work the whole month, and then they pay you 2 weeks after the whole month is done.
Wow.
So you know, there was the whole thing about if I can, you know, support myself for a month in a foreign country where I'm going to want to party a lot and stuff, you know, and eat and whatever else.
Yeah, that's I mean, and plus they don't really know you and you don't know them. So I imagine like they're not in a rush to make sure you get paid, or they don't really worry about you. I mean, is that right?
No, and in fact, later on we'll talk about something where, so in this scenario, it worked out. It was fine, but like you're saying, I didn't know them. They don't know me.
Yeah.
It wasn't a guarantee. So I kind of took the leap of faith and it worked out fine. There was never any problem. And in fact, as soon as I got to the place and I saw how it was run and everything like that, you know, that kind of went away.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're booking something, even though I had been doing music full time for such a long time, it was a brand new experience.
Right.
You know, I felt like it was back in, you know, 1997 or whatever, when I first started doing it full time, and you know, it was new. It was brand new again.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, new audience, you know, just all that stuff.
Well, I guess that kind of was like exciting, very, I mean, kind of refreshing. Did you feel like it was like refreshing to approach a new situation?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, everything. I mean, you know, the first place I came was to Sweden. I came here for 2 weeks, and I played in the town I live in now, Motala, where you came last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, you and Paul, man, that was good.
Yeah, that was awesome.
We're doing that again. We're doing it without you guys, unfortunately, but we're doing the festival gig again.
Oh, okay. We just to fill you guys in on the podcast. Me and a friend of mine, we went over to Sweden last July, and we played. We were a rhythm section for him at a local festival called Stadsfest, right? Big town festival.
Yeah, which is what Stads Festival means.
Yeah,
town fest. Yeah,
that was a good time, man. That was super fun. And so you're doing that again this year?
Yeah, I'm doing that. Remember, we had Yoki on guitar.
Yeah,
and he's gonna be playing again. So yeah, it's gonna be good. We've been rehearsing. It's been going good. It's gonna be a good time.
Very cool.
Hopefully, we'll get some. Gonna work out how to get some video that you're not gonna be there, so we'll work it out.
Cool.
But anyway, yeah. So when I first came over here, I was in Sweden, and it was everything was brand new. I played some shows here. Mats hooked that all up. And then just moved on to Copenhagen, and I went to Ireland after that, and England, and a couple other places too. And it was just like you know, it's the first time I'd ever been there. Anytime you travel, it's just always eye opening.
Yeah.
And to do it, you know, I guess essentially alone, and playing makes it even better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing, it's like every time, ask anybody who's playing full time, like in this kind of realm, and any new gig is always exciting, even if you've been playing in Phoenix or wherever else for 10 years.
Yeah, you
get a new gig and it's exciting. So to get new gigs in, you know, all these different countries and stuff was very exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like,
and
I remember like when you and I played a new gig or something here in Phoenix, and it's like a new club. You're like, you walk in and you're like, wow, ooh, nice new club, nice smell, everything's nice. I can't even imagine what that's like in a different country. Or not smell. You know, who knows? But yeah, that's got to be pretty invigorating to do that in a foreign country, man. That's super exciting.
Yeah, it totally made me feel alive. You know, it's you do something for long enough, it becomes stagnant.
Yeah.
And so it definitely breathed new life into me for music and for, you know, just you know, all the newness of it.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I wanted to keep doing it, which I did for like 5 years. Kind of made it bigger. And then so now I'm here full time.
So basically, to just keep folks up to date on Mike's timeline here, you didn't just immediately move to Sweden. You basically went out there. You started doing summers there. You kind of gradually got into the situation where you were able to move there, but you were kind of going back and forth for a couple of years, yeah?
Yeah, I was going back. I was there for 4 summers. I kept coming back because you can only get like 90 days.
Oh, okay.
Each year without having to get some kind of visa. So, you know, summertime's the best time to be here, obviously, and it was that's when I came.
Yeah, and over the course of
tried to keep hitting new countries, new cities, knew everything every time. Try to grow it.
Yeah.
Which it did.
So did you along the way you hooked up with a booking agency? Is that right?
Yeah,
not
actually,
in the beginning,
I was
but
really hoping we'd. No. Somewhere in there, another buddy of mine, Christopher Askness, who's also an incredible musician. He hooked me up with this. He was working for this agency, and that's in Norway. So they were, gigging him around Norway. Mats also, and I forget exactly how it happened, but I think they kind of needed somebody for like a. Not last minute, but close to somebody canceled or something. And they gave him my name because I was going to be here. And so we booked it and, it went well. And then, so I ended up getting in with the agency. So when I was ready so that was before I moved here. So when I was ready to move here, I had that kind of lined up too.
Right. Yeah. That's gotta
huge.
help a lot, right? Now you're not, you have basically help with booking shows, but you can still book your own shows if you want to, right?
Yeah, and I still have to. They're a great agency, and I want to maybe a little later on we can talk about what they do because there's differences between what I think up and coming people think that agencies and agents do for the musicians and stuff, but yeah. So I work for them, and that's not primarily. That's completely in Norway. So they are based in Norway, and they book all around the country. So I go to like 7 or 8 or 9 different cities. Most of them I'd never heard of before in Norway. I'll go for a week at a time sometimes, or it can be just for the weekend. It can be 2, 3, 4 nights. I've do 10-nighters sometimes. Whew. So they're really helpful. And those 10-nighters those are nice when you have get
like
paid.
Straight work. That's 10 nights in a row playing 3 to 4 hour sets usually.
From the very first of the year for 15 days straight, 15 nights straight.
Yeah. Okay.
4 hours straight a night. In a ski town. Yeah, it's really nice there. But
yeah, so all you people all you musicians out there who are thinking like, yeah, I want to go do this. Make sure that you can put in that kind of time. Play that long, many hours, like 3-4 hours a night. 15 nights in a row. That's a lot of work. It sounds like fun, but it is work too.
It is. And to be honest with you, as long as I've been doing it, I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to last the 15 nights either. I don't think there's any way to gauge that. You got to go in and hope for the best and do your best, even if you're not at your best.
Yeah.
Because that happens too. Yeah. And 3 nights, no problem. It was good.
Right. So I think I might be losing a connection here, but hopefully I don't lose you. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can. I just I walk around a lot when I talk, so I'll try to just stay in one place.
So let me ask you a couple questions about playing out there now, being full time in Sweden. What are some kind of like the pros and cons here? Let's do a pros and cons list about being American or foreign and playing in these venues where maybe you didn't even speak the language. So what are the kind of the pros and the cons of all that?
Interesting you put it that way. I just there's a really good gig in Norway that I had played a year ago, and I hadn't heard back, so I pressed the agent. I'm like, what's going on? Why am I not? It went really well. The crowd was good. The staff was all really cool and into it.
Yeah.
And she came back and she said there's a problem because of somebody complained about the language. And I was like, oh fuck, man. Sometimes sometimes I get a little mouthy on the microphone, and I like was so, this is all back and forth through emails, and I was like so apologetic. I'm like, oh my God, sometimes I focus on the person who thinks I'm funny too, and I go with them, and I kind of forget about the rest of the room. And I'm like, it won't happen again,
Yeah.
I'll make sure to keep it cleaner. And she writes back, and she's like, no, it's because you don't speak Norwegian. And I'm like, what?
Oh, okay.
So this particular place is it's kind of in all these places are really kind of seafaring towns.
Yeah.
And they're kind of this place in particular is like kind of Scandinavian centric.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to, I guess they want to hear these kind of just the Sweet Home Alabamas and the Sweet Carolines of Norway,
which are all sung in a different language, obviously, and you'd have to learn
not English. Yeah, exactly.
Do you ever have to learn? I mean, have you ever had to learn some of their songs in their language? I mean, like.
I have not done it. I mean, it would probably be, I would sound like an idiot if I did it, but it would probably also be really funny and endearing if I did, and I could probably be a little more, I don't know, daring that way.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I'm just trying to learn Swedish here. Now I got to go to Norway and learn their songs.
And that's in contrast to like your friends, your buddies who come here to the U.S. from Norway or Sweden. I mean, they're kind of like U.S. is a tough audience, right? So like
No, I don't think so. I don't think the U.S. is a tough audience, and I think Mats has gone back there, and they go back there and do the original stuff.
Yeah,
they're both solo guys, but they also have a band.
Mm-hmm. Wow, okay.
They go over there and do it, and they're very well received. I mean, these guys are super.
Yeah.
Anyways, but they know all that stuff too. They know all the English stuff, and they kind of just throw in Swedish stuff. Obviously they're both Swedish, so when they're they can play the stuff. They know it.
So what kind of when you travel, you travel pretty lightly, right? I've seen your gear set up. When you travel to all these places around Europe, what's your rundown on your gear? I must have this when I travel?
Yeah. Okay. So all these places they definitely have to have their own stuff, and if they don't, they have to rent it. And I always make sure, or if the agency books it, then they make sure that they rent it or borrow it or they have stuff. Because I'm on trains and planes and stuff, and I can't be hauling around a PA system.
Right. You don't travel with a PA or anything like that, so.
No. But what I do is I have my guitar,
mm-hmm.
And then I have my I've got my like vocal processor that kind of doubles as a mixer. So I plug my guitar and my microphone into that, and it goes out into their system.
Okay.
And then just cables and microphone, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And passport.
But, all anybody would need is a guitar and a microphone, because they, all these places have stuff set up. And it's locally, like I played 2 nights here in town this weekend at the same place. I have a PA that I bring there.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't be traveling with that.
Yeah. So you're based out of Motala, Sweden. For the audiences here, that's kind of I was lucky to visit there last year, but it's kind of a smaller town. What is it? 2 hours outside of Stockholm? Is that right?
It's about 3 hours. So if you look at a map of Sweden, Gothenburg's on the kind of the west coast, down at the lower part of Sweden,
mm-hmm.
and then Stockholm's a little bit further north and on the east coast. Okay. So we're right smack there, like the one highway that goes straight from Stockholm to Gothenburg. We're right halfway in between.
Okay. And
pretty much
that's kind of your home base, and you do gigs obviously in your own hometown. What percentage of your shows are usually like on the road or within at least when I say on the road, like full on traveling, getting on a plane, getting on a train, or it's within driving distance of where you live?
Well, it depends, man. It depends how busy those guys keep me in Norway.
Mm.
When it's rocking, it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
So I usually go to Norway for a week, come back here for a week, go back to Norway for a week, come back for a week, like that, back and forth. And it might not be for the whole week. It might just be for the weekend or a long weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that it can be like that. Right now I'm at home for the next, pretty much for the rest of July,
Okay.
or through the rest of July from now till, till August.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll be gone for 3 weeks at a time in August.
Okay.
So it's hard to say, it's kind of random. And it makes it a little bit difficult to book far out, because I'm not sure. I never know when the agency will book or
Right.
not.
When the work's going to come in, like what they're going to have.
Right. So I got to kind of wait for them, but I can't wait too long, because if it doesn't come in, then I have nothing. And
Yeah.
so that adds a little dimension of trickiness.
Kind of like a balancing
But,
act on work and not
Yeah,
working.
and I'm learning it, and I'm making it work the best I can. So,
Yeah.
but also the places here locally are pretty good about, I've been here for now a year and a half, so I'm friendly with those guys, and they'll throw me a bone if I'm off if I need something within
Yeah.
a week or two's notice. I can probably hook at least a night or two up.
Yeah, I think that with wondering what the workload is like, it's kind of always challenging for full-time musicians on how you plan ahead, like for your vacations. I saw that you guys went on vacation just recently. How do you plan for time off, because you kind of always have to be on call almost. You're like on call at any point because gigs could come through. So, managing that is probably
That's the thing. That's the thing. That doesn't matter where you are. I mean, anywhere you are, things come through the last minute, and that's probably goes for a lot of different kind of occupations too.
Yeah.
Any kind of freelance thing. You do have to plan for vacations. Sometimes the vacations plan you, though. I'm not going to have anything going on here for this next 2 weeks. Now it seems like a good time to get out of town and go do something
Take a
fun.
vacation.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So what kind of let me throw another question at you. What is the differences, like what have you noticed, if any, the differences between playing in front of a American-based audience, and then couple that with what is it like to play in front of audiences in Europe? What's the differences, or if there is any?
There is and there isn't. I mean, I think places here are they get into it. Places in the U.S. too, though, they get into it too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think mostly here, like in Norway in particular, people have a preconceived notion of what the songs are going to be they're going to hear that night.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't matter how old or young they are, they're going to be shouting the same 10 or 15 songs
Mm-hmm.
at you every time.
The Freebirds.
night
The
long.
Freebirds.
The Freebirds, yeah, and they're not they're amazingly enough not Freebird, but
Yeah.
it's I don't know, just weird stuff. I would walk 500 miles.
Oh, okay, yeah. I hear that's a big one over there. Still, even today, that's a big one over there.
It is that one, but also it's mostly old stuff. They love the Creedence for some reason. They like Country Roads, Take Me Home.
Wow.
Is always gonna bring the house down.
Uh-huh.
Don't Stop Believing is not that magical as it was in the U.S. Believe it or not.
That's like blasphemy, man.
Which
I don't
is
know.
too bad, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get him on this one. And then like kind of just a small town girl and nothing. Like, oh, okay.
Crickets. Yeah, that's interesting, man. Like what other songs go over there that you wouldn't expect? I mean, that's probably really interesting to know.
I'll just it's all this like kind of standard stuff, which is fine.
Yeah.
Summer '69, I like that, and something I always get shouted at me all night long is, I don't know if you've heard of it. It just goes like, "Who the fuck is Alice?" Have you heard that song?
I haven't heard that one.
Me either. And people just and they're like, they look at me like I've got a third eyeball right in the middle of my head when I say I have no idea what it is, and they're like, "Oh, how could that be possible? You have a guitar in your hand." But when I try to do my thing, also I definitely want to keep doing my thing, and also drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And I found that I've been playing it since it was like a first came out, but Linkin Park song, you know, when I first started playing it back when it came out, it was really popular. And then kind of like everything else, it just kind of dies off. When I came here, like and I don't want to put it this way, but when Chester died, that just made it, you know, really go over even more.
Is that's the song "In the End," right, by Linkin Park?
In the End, yeah. I mean, they really like that one, so that kind of makes me happy because I like playing that one. And you know, if I get into a little bit of heavier stuff, maybe not many of the other acoustic guys do so much heavy stuff. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't really see many of them, but I'll play like some Metallica and some Iron Maiden and stuff, and that kind of goes over, at least with some of the people who are kind of surprised by it. But now I'm trying to learn Swedish, not sung in Swedish, but English speaking Swedish artists. You know, I'll try to play some Avicii and I just started playing Ghost. You know that? Have you heard Ghost?
I think so. Yeah.
I love it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Check it out, man. After this, I'll send you a link to the live album. It's incredible. But that's tricky. The guy's from nearby here. He's from the next town where we switched trains in Linköping. Remember that?
Yeah.
So the guy, the singer dude is from, I guess the whole band is from that kind of, it's a bigger town than here, but still kind of a small city. So people kind of dig that, you know, like that I'm making an effort to kind of pander to them.
Right. Are the audiences, like, are they surprised when they hear that you're from America, or like you have an American accent, quote unquote? Are they surprised to hear that, or are they just, you know, doesn't matter?
They really are. And they love it. I'm not gonna lie, man. They really eat it up. And it's interesting to me. It's a weird thing, but it's an advantage for real.
Okay.
I think it's, you know, the way some of the drunk people say it, they say that, you know, you sound like you're from movies because they've grown up in all these Hollywood movies and TV shows. It's true, they say that, man.
You sound like you're from the
movies.
movies.
Me feel
That's awesome.
Silly, but yeah, and they kind of, you know, they like listening. They like listening to me talk, which is great because I talk a lot all day. You know, it works out good. But they always, you know, it's funny, you know, on breaks and stuff, talking to the people there. You know, it doesn't take 30 seconds before they start bringing up the two most popular subjects of when they hear you're American, which is,
I can only imagine,
Trump and guns.
Yeah.
What's the deal with Trump? What's the deal with guns? So, you know, I try to slink away and just kind of not have that conversation the best I can, but
I never thought of that one. So being an American out there, like you said, can be an advantage. People, when they hear you talking between songs, it probably makes them perk up, you know, because like you're playing this gig and it's noisy, bustling, and people are talking to each other, and then they hear you come on the microphone, and obviously you're the loudest in the room, and then they hear you with your American accent.
No matter what. And that's an American thing too, by the way, is being the loudest person in the room anyway, microphone or no. Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes you see them kind of almost, depending on who's there, struggling to kind of listen to what you're saying. I talk fast too.
Yeah.
That's kind of that kind of poses a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
And you know, they get over it and whatever, and they just want to party.
Yeah.
They just want to party,
right.
man.
That's
and,
that's universal.
I think,
that's a universal need, man.
Yeah, it is. I remember when this has nothing to do with music, but I remember the first time I came out here, I was in Copenhagen. I was taking the bus from where I was staying to my gig, and my mom, I talked to her on the phone earlier that day, and she's like, "So what are the people like?" And I didn't really know how to answer her. And then I was thinking about it while I was on the bus, and I looked out the window, and on the bridge overpass on the wall, somebody had spray painted a dick on the thing. And I was like, people are just the same everywhere. It's just, you know, there's not a whole lot of differences. If you go to Japan, you can be in some Zen garden somewhere, and somebody probably draw a dick in the sand garden.
You'll see
or something.
some kind of graffiti somewhere, right?
it's gonna be that.
Yeah. Oh man.
But so yeah, I mean, and it's the same thing with these people in the bars and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember early on, I was kind of nervous about that. What were they gonna, how is it gonna be received? What were they gonna be wanting to do and stuff? And they just, it's nighttime, it's party time.
Yeah, and I also,
especially right now in the summer.
Yeah.
Here, in the winter, this, the nightlife's pretty bleak. I think most places only open on Friday and Saturday night. But and that's in motel. I'm sure in Stockholm and the bigger cities, it's they're every night. But but in the summertime right now, it's just like sun's out until midnight, and people are just out getting it because it doesn't last long, and they definitely make the most of it.
Sun's out, guns
which
out.
is kind of refreshing too, coming from Phoenix.
Yeah.
Because the sun's always, people kind of fear the sun, especially in the summer. So it's nice in the summertime here, yeah.
And just so my audiences know too, that you definitely made an effort to learn the language out there. I know that you put in time and like have learned how to speak Swedish. And I mean, you're out there now, so.
Right now, I just canceled telling my Swedish friends to listen to this podcast. Because they'll all scoff at that.
Right.
I do all right, man. I think I've learned quite a bit, and I could probably impress you. Pretty good with it.
I was impressed when you started busting out Swedish last year, man. That was very impressive.
Yeah. But when I get into conversations, and I can have like full on conversations, but I gotta slow them down. I gotta know what they're talking about. Someone just comes at me willy-nilly speaking Swedish at me. I'm like, whoa.
Slow it down.
Yeah. What are we talking about here? But what ends up happening? So like I probably don't study as much as I could and should. But what ends up happening is when I try to have a Swedish conversation, it gets kind of tedious, and because they can speak English anyway. So with them having to talk slower and me, mispronouncing everything and probably putting the grammar all backwards and stuff, they just kind of like, let's just, One guy said, I was talking one time and he just kind of stopped me and he goes, "You sound cool speaking English, just do that. Don't ruin my language."
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, fair enough. All right. Fine by me.
I honestly, dude, I could honestly talk and we could podcast all day long on this, but I'm going to try and keep it to a reasonable chunk of time. One last question though. What advice would you have for someone who's listening to this and has been thinking about either A, doing music full time, or B, traveling to Europe? What advice can you give someone so they can walk away from this podcast going, wow, I didn't know that, or now I know more, and I'm, that kind of thing. What advice would you give to someone?
I should have thought more about that before. I don't know that I have any advice.
Yeah.
I think, I have experience of things that, worked and didn't work for me. I think going back to the first time I came out here and I was saying that, there was some fear, or at least some holding back, some unsureness about it. And I think if you're traveling anywhere, whether it's going to be to an American city you've never been before, or, Mexico or Canada or anywhere.
Yeah.
For any amount of time, for a lengthy amount of time, that's not just vacation, and you're going to be trying to work there, just do it. Just throw yourself in. What they say about everything, prepare for the worst, and expect the best, and hopefully wind up somewhere in the middle there. But actually what I just thought of when I was saying that was, if you're going to be going to a foreign country to play music, keep it off your social media. Because there's this Milka wants to come in. Hold on. There's a show here. It's a very popular show in Sweden. It's about Australia and their border patrol. So they're just, when you go there, in Australia in particular, they're super strict about people not going in there to make any kind of money.
Wow. Okay.
Without any kind of permits or anything like that. And I remember when I was flying into to Dublin, they were pretty hardcore too. They scared me. They were asking for like bank statements and stuff, like making sure you have enough money so you're not going to be trying to make their money.
Wow. Okay.
and take it out with you.
Yeah. That's
So, and my buddy Matt's actually, he had gone to Australia to play, and he had lived there for a year and played there full time, and he was going back, and he was going to do it just kind of under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him about it, and of course he lied, like, because he knew better.
Yeah.
And they just popped up. They just Googled his name, and there was his tour schedule on his website.
Oh man! Wow.
So, you know, you want to promote it. You know, it's a big deal to be going out and playing in a foreign country, and you want to promote it. And it's exciting for your fans. But at least I think you did this for me on the website.
Mm-hmm.
When you're flying in, make sure that the stuff is pulled down so they don't, they don't bust you on that and send you back packing with nothing.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Traveling over there, and you're going there to work, so you have to be careful about what that actually means. It's not just a vacation. Like, for someone who wants to do this for the first time, you have to be careful about what you're earning and what you're making, and follow those rules, I guess, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, I had my guitar, and I had my, whatever gear I had, and I had like 100 CDs and stuff like that. So it was, luckily nobody really searched me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, or there's probably, like I said, all I have is my experiences. There's probably legal ways to do it too.
Yeah. Well, whatever way works, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, and now that I'm here, living here, I have the permit, and I get, I have the they call it a personal number. It's like your Social Security.
Yeah.
And everybody that pays me has to pay me through that. So
okay.
Yeah, so I have to like send invoices, and they pay me after. It's a little bit more complicated, but
Yeah.
It's not cash in hand. Nobody writes checks here anymore.
Okay.
So it all goes through the internet, and they just boom, pops up in your account.
Wow.
When you're done.
Well, man, I honestly, like I said, I want to do this again with you. I think that the people who listen to this podcast are going to want to hear more about your stories. So I appreciate you coming on today,
I love doing
man.
it, man. It's fun. Yeah, just definitely let me know. I'm always down. So
yeah. So for people who are listening on podcasts and watching this podcast, this is my buddy Mike Mercier. His website is www.mikeontherun.com. You're really good about posting your shows on there. If you want to learn more about traveling in Europe or doing, music full time or anything like that, I would definitely check out Mike on his social media. Just see what he's up to, because he's definitely doing it out there, and maybe that'll help you and help inspire you to do the same thing, or if just do it in your local town. It doesn't really matter. You don't even have to do the Europe thing, but check it out, MikeOnTheRun.com, and follow him on Instagram. Same thing, Mike on the Run at Instagram. Yeah, I think so.
Official Mike on the Run. Yeah.
Yeah. Official Mike on the Run. So. Hang on here, brother. We'll sign off here real quick, but I'm going to sign off with you guys on the podcast. Again, Mike Mercier, thank you for coming on here, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, it sucks I have to cut this off early, but we are definitely going to do this again. Appreciate you guys checking out this podcast. Hopefully you got some value out of it. I know I had a laugh or two. That always happens when we get together, but hope to see you guys on the next podcast, and peace and love.